Welcome to our latest edition of Faculty Spotlight. We are pleased to welcome Professor Keith Kelley, Associate Professor of International Business here at the University of Michigan-Flint School of Management. Buenos dias, Professor.
Buenos días, pero aquí es muy tarde, entonces buenas tardes. Good afternoon, how are you?
Buenas tardes. And how are you today?
I am doing very well. Actually, with my background there, you're right. It's my background, San Francisco. So I'm almost Buenos dias. That's right. So it's almost morning time still here. I am doing very well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. You have traveled all over the world and worked in various places around the world, and so my use of Spanish is familiar to you in an intimate way. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you've been.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I think a lot of people would recognize if I'm teaching international business is that I've done a lot of traveling all over the world. I've been, I think, about 30 countries now, and that's not, double counting them. Of course, that's unique places, and that's through South America, Central America. That's really where I've done a lot of my traveling, but also Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia as well. But I'm kind of from a small town, so I'm the place where I grew up. First 6 years of my life is down at the bottom of a dirt road. That's down at the bottom of another dirt road that you would need a four-wheel drive to get to. And Gilmanton Ironworks in New Hampshire, very, very small town. And so I guess if you're, looking at me, you wouldn't necessarily, with the traveling that I've done, think that I just came from a very, very, very small town, small rural community, but I certainly did. And I've grown up with a lot of curiosity, obviously, and that's why I got into studying international business and traveling, and it's certainly a big part of who I am today. Yeah.
How long have you been at the university, and what do you do here?
Yeah, so I joined officially the University of Michigan-Flint in 2014 in May. So I was a full-time faculty member with my appointment in that fall, but teaching some of the spring and summer classes. So I've been here since 2014. Prior to that, I was completing my PhD at Florida International University in Miami, where I spent about 12 years of my life. So not all doing education, of course. So I went down there, and my love for Latin America and my traveling, and that's known as the capital of Latin America. So I spent a long time there and interacting in various neighborhoods there as well. They have some more affluent communities and more. They have a variety of different pockets of nationalities there. So the last few years that I was in Miami, I was living in Doral, which they call Doralzuela now because of all of the Venezuelans that have migrated there. Where there was a documentary by W. Kamau Bell the other day on that, talking with all the Venezuelans that are living there. And lived in Hialeah for a couple of years, which, if you're familiar with Miami at all, is Spanish speaking only and is New Cuba. So my love for Latin America has kind of brought me down to Miami, and went to that university prior to joining the University of Michigan-Flint, and got me into teaching international business. So I've been very fortunate in that regard to be able to travel, be able to pursue my interest in research and international business. Continued that here at the University of Michigan-Flint for the past 6.5 years.
What are you researching these days? What has caught your attention recently?
Yeah, so I do a variety of elements of research, but things that are of particular importance to me right now, a couple of main themes. I'm doing some research on corporate reputation and reputation of countries. So in international business, and I do a lot of teaching also and research and strategy, strategic management, and global strategy. So there's a lot of interest in getting the resources that you need to compete, and that includes human resources around the world and in various countries. Can you get those as an organization? So the reputation of companies helps attract people, and so does the reputation of countries. So I've done a few things recently about country reputation, and some of the other elements that are particularly important right now are things like technology and artificial intelligence and how that's affecting the way that we do business and make decisions. and who's going to be, of course, in the lead for these industries and innovation and developments in these industries around the world. So countries like the United States and those in Europe have been doing a fairly good job. And obviously China's at the forefront, catching up rather quickly, and maybe even surpassing a lot of nations at this point with respect to their ability to use artificial intelligence in making decisions faster, such as would be the case in recognizing and dealing with a global pandemic that's about to come out. So a lot of technology that's affiliated with things like that. So I do research there, and mostly it's about strategy for corporations, typically in a global or international basis.
Hmm. You teach a variety of courses at the university over the years. What courses are you teaching recently?
Yeah, so I teach primary courses in international business and international management. So, international business is a course which introduces a lot of our undergraduate students to the complexities of international business, the opportunities, the challenges that presents. Obviously, recently we've had several things come on display in terms of trade issues that we've had for the United States and other nations, as well as our ability to move around and engage in commerce has been severely limited by the pandemic. Global supply chains have certainly been disrupted on a profound scale. So I teach international business and how to see some of these things coming, how to anticipate, to examine markets and take advantages of opportunities and challenges, obviously for perhaps outsourcing business processing or just production or selling things in new markets. And international management is a little bit more of a mixture of softer and harder skills associated with strategies. So softer skills would be, how do you deal with people from foreign cultures if you're trying to manage them? What are some tactics? What are some techniques that you can do to work with people from around the world to take advantage of what they know and interact with them in a more positive way so that you can keep management meetings and interactions and negotiations as productive as possible. Other elements of that course are related to strategy and global strategy. So how do you take advantages of markets? How do you balance, multiple markets in a portfolio for larger corporations and multinationals? So when you're going to work and analyzing countries, what sorts of things are you going to be looking for? What things can benefit a company? So a big trend that we have in our world today is understanding how to do analysis of things and interpret information. And so a big focus in a lot of these classes, in particular international management, is analysis of markets, analysis of countries. What opportunities exist? How do you know? And what can you do about them? When do you capitalize? When do you not capitalize? And how do you do that? So those are the courses that I've generally been teaching.
Well, this is a very uncertain time for a number of reasons. With tariffs and government intervention in the markets, it sounds like you would learn all about how to take a look at those forces, perhaps not forecast, but at least think about it.
Well, that's actually a very interesting question, because the international business course is really, I sometimes refer to it as understanding your world. And if you watch politicians speak and you listen to them talk, and you can kind of anticipate when it is that you're going to have troubles with countries and tariffs and issues associated with commerce, when the companies are going to do well, when they're not going to do well. And you can kind of see some of these things coming. So we talk a lot about interest rates, we talk about inflation, we talk about unemployment and how that basically affects the psyche of countries. And what does that mean for politics? And so when we start to see things like unemployment, we start to see things like fluctuations and economic prosperity and inequality. Basically the politicians are going to be on top of that, and they're going to start shaping some of their policies. And obviously we've in the United States had a big issue recently with trade disputes between various nations, including those in North America and China and Europe. And we'll talk a lot about that in class. What sorts of things can you see coming? You can see these trade disputes arising, and you can anticipate them a little bit in business.
So here we are in little bitty Flint, Michigan, and you're talking about international trade disputes and markets. It sounds to me like our relations with Canada, for example, and aluminum tariffs. They're right across the border. It sounds like Flint students should very much have a real clear view on international trade. So,
Yeah, and I actually ask a lot of the students, and I've been doing this recently, so that they're aware of the fact that when, China makes the news, it makes big headlines for the overall trade. But some of our closest trading partners, and we look at local trade here in Michigan, are Canada and Mexico and obviously Germany and Japan because of our automotive and OEM manufacturing. But University of Michigan-Flint is an hour away from Canada, and so and some of the major highways of international commerce are just across the border and running through Michigan. So we take a look at a lot of that stuff, and there's lots of opportunities that exist for students that just want to sell something in another country, just sitting right here. We're well positioned strategically in terms of our ability to take advantage of international commerce because we're so close to Canada.
well, a lot of our students work, and what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting thing where a lot of the European students and other international students, sometimes when they come here, they're surprised by the fact that a lot of U.S. students, and certainly a lot at the University of Michigan-Flint, do a lot of work while they're going to school. So I would just say, make sure you read the syllabus well and understand when you need to, balance your time. That's one of the most critical aspects for success, is knowing how to manage your time effectively. When do you put in the effort? What sorts of things do you need to schedule in for budgeting your time? What matters more, what matters less? And it's very difficult to balance that, but also trying to take advantage of opportunities that you have for progressing at work and making sure that you're being paid as well as you possibly can while you're going to school, because some of those are the challenges that we face. Why it is that you're not just going to school rather than going to school and working, it usually is a financial decision, right? So making sure that you're in the best position that you can financially, and I would also say that don't worry about things associated with where you're working and pride, but always try to take advantage of new opportunities when they present themselves. So when I was in school, I had a mixture of employment while I was going through my undergraduate studies, and so I worked at a convenience store, worked at a gas station, and then I also did web design on the side as well. So, one of them had prestige, and one of them doesn't necessarily have as much prestige. But pride is a luxury, I would say. So just keep working, keep your head down, look for your opportunities when they arise, but make sure you balance your time. And a lot of that comes from understanding your syllabus, understanding your demands, and scheduling your time effectively. And a good scheduling at the beginning of the semester will help you out a great deal. So just trying to get your head around when things are due, and planning your time accordingly. So taking a little bit of time up front will certainly help you to balance the demands of the contemporary student at the University of Michigan-Flint.
Yeah. What advice would you have for students who are unsure of their focus?
Well, obviously tuition can be expensive, so you don't want to not have as much focus as you're going forward. But I would say don't worry about it too much. Make sure you're making progress, especially if you're not really sure with some of the core courses, especially in the BBA. If they're like applied to any of the BBA, then make sure you've dealt with those. You may get a little bit more fundamental understanding of what it is that really interests you. And then, of course, markets and demands can change as well. So be flexible in that way, but understand something which is really important. I try to convey this to a lot of students, is that there is a definite need for some technical skills and understanding when you graduate, when you want to get a job. But a lot of what the experience of going and getting your undergraduate education is about is learning how to think critically, learning how to be creative, and learning how to adapt. And so, if you read about industry and how it evolves, a lot of people will say, and they'll throw various numbers around, that the job that you have 10 years from now hasn't even been invented yet, or 70% of the jobs haven't even been invented yet. And so if you're worried about having focus, don't get too stressed out about that. Do the best that you can in keeping yourself making progress however you can. But understand that the real goal of your education is to learn some fundamental skills and learn how to think critically so that you can develop your own skills when you start working for enterprise and take advantage of an ever-evolving industry. So if you learn how to think critically, you've captured the main spirit of why you've gone and got your undergraduate degree. And certainly we try to instill that in our classes. I do, and in my international business classes, just think about something, and don't worry about getting it right. Just make sure you've thought about it, because you'll have to change your question or change your response 10 times in the future.
So as a final question, what course should every student take before leaving the University of Michigan-Flint? Besides international business, of course.
Well, you can't ask a question like that and expect me not to answer with my own courses, right? So I'd certainly advocate for the international business course. It really helps you understand your world a great deal more. So I would definitely advocate for that. But if I were to advocate for any other course, that you might want to take, probably in your field or something similar, an entrepreneurship class, a personal finance class, understanding business at its most fundamental level, how a business is run, how it's developed, how things are marketed. So a marketing class, those are really, really important classes for people just to market themselves, to understand business. So I would certainly recommend any entrepreneurship classes. I would certainly recommend, basic marketing classes to understand, what the principles behind marketing, how, marketing works, and makes you understand and see things from a completely different perspective. When you walk into the supermarket and you walk into the retail store, you understand your world. So in advocating for my international business course, as I say, it's like understanding your world. The same thing could be held for marketing, or the same thing could be held for entrepreneurship or a personal finance class. A lot of it is about just simply understanding the rules of the game and how things work with business, which really is fundamental for any person that's in any field, rather than just the School of Management. Just anybody at the University of Michigan-Flint would benefit from those courses. And I would certainly say, don't miss your opportunity to have one of those classes. So after you're done taking entrepreneurship or marketing, you come and you see Professor Kelley in international business.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Professor, for your time.
You're welcome.
Have
I
a
hope
great
you guys have a great day, and everybody's staying safe.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.